Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is internationally syndicated solely due to the love and support that you all continue to give. We're available across all major distributors, and as long as you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in, because on the line with us today, we have the impressive Michael L. Larimer. And we're going to be discussing his amazing book, Two Roads, Modern Christian Parables. Available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Books, man, a whole host of places. Simply type it into a search bar and you're going to be greeted with all of them. And while you're at it, check out his other book. And that one is called Life Sentence. Just as gripping and just an amazing novel that is a roller coaster of a ride. You're not going to be able to put it down. Of course, the anchor for today is all about two roads, but you're also going to want to check out Life Sentence. Again, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Books, and a lot of other places. Before we go any further, I want to take this opportunity and point out the fact that Michael was brought to our network by one of the best firms in the business. People you already know, talking about Author Reputation Press. So if you're a writer out there who has gone through their process and now you need some help moving that book you just developed, well, you got to contact ARP people because they're one of the best movers in the business. Check out authorreputationpress.com today and gather all the ways that their fantastic team is going to help you do just that. It is a true pleasure to have Michael here on the line. People, trust me when I tell you his book, Two Roads, is something you're not going to want to put down. All right. You are going to embark upon an adventure that meets wisdom. Okay. And where choices shape destinies. Now, I say that knowing the magnitude of this book because, again, it's filled with parables, as it says right there in the subtitle. And they're going to have you thinking. All right. It's under the guise of entertainment, but this is going to make you think back to all of those crossroads in your life that you encountered and you made a decision to go left or to go right. Well, what happened if you went the other route? Right? It's going to force you to explore some of the decisions that we all make in our lives and understand the consequences of those decisions. Now, good consequence, bad consequence, doesn't matter. For every action, there is a reaction. This book explores that through and through. It is a collection of short stories that all have wonderful messages to really be given. And we're only going to scratch the surface here today. We're going to cover some of them. But by the time we've concluded, man, you're going to need to run and pick up copies because you're going to need to add this to your shelf. It is much more than just an entertaining read. Although, trust me when I say it is absolutely an entertaining read, but a great resource to add to your shelf as well. And without further ado, let's jump right in. Let's bring him here with us. Michael, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction. And thank you very much for being a guest with us. How are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Well, listen, it's a pleasure to have you, man. I think what you've done is remarkably unique and a great way to teach beneficial messages while, again, doing it under that disguise of entertainment. I often find it's a lot easier to receive messages when it's not you staring down the barrel yourself, right? I mean, if it's coming through somebody else's eyes, it makes it just a little bit easier. So we're looking forward to this. Michael, first and foremost, man, let's start at the foundation. Let's learn a little bit more about your background. This way we have a good setup before we go into the book. Tell us more about yourself.
Well, I graduated from liberal Missouri High School in 1975, and I joined the United States Army in July of 75, stayed in until 1978, and then I went into programming, computer programming, and I stayed there from 1980 until I had to retire in 2011 due to neuropathy brought on by diabetes. And so I had to retire. And since then, I've been as a retiree, I'm going, what do I do? So all my life I've been thinking I wanted to write stuff. So I figured now I have plenty of time to do it. So that's what I've been doing for the last few years.
Well, listen, let's jump right in. I have a lot of questions that I want to ask about the book, but I guess we should probably learn a little bit more about it. Start off by telling us about your book, Two Roads, Modern Christian Parables, so this way we know what to expect when we pick it up.
Well, it mostly is, as you said before, you come to crossroads and decisions that you make every day, actually. Now, Two Roads is the longest of the 10 books, or 10 stories, I should say, in there. And it is basically two young girls. I think I've aged them about 8 or 9 or something like that. And they are going to go out on an adventure together. And they go to the woods on the eastern side of the town. And at that time, they come to a clearing where they meet a hermit. And this hermit tells them, go on down the path a little bit more and you'll run into another clearing where there'll be 2 paths to take. Mm-hmm. One of them will go to the left, one to the right. And the 2 girls, Jazz and Jennifer, they get there to the clearing, they see the 2 paths, and they're trying to decide which way to go. Jazz decided the best way to go is to the left because it's a nice wide road. It looks like it's paved in gold, encrusted in jewels, and just looks like a nicer route. Whereas Jennifer feels like she's being drawn and almost pulled into the other road that goes to the right, even though it looks almost like a rabbit couldn't get through there. And they argue about it for a while. Finally, Jazz goes down the left road, and Jennifer says she has to go to the right, so she goes to the right. Mm-hmm. And from then on, it talks of their adventures of how they traveled down those roads and where it ultimately led to. And the other stories, we have the War on Gam, which is basically the king of the empire returns to this small kingdom of Gam. He had been away for a long time, and he finally returns, and he finds us totally in shambles because one of his messengers came there and took over the kingdom and started ruling it with an iron fist. Mm-hmm. Well, there was a war broke out. The king finally defeated the messenger, and the king then sent out other messengers, and the narrator of the story talks about his adventure of going to, I think it was 4 different towns, and what the reception was at those towns. Some of them were good, some of them were not good. And so, and his message was to tell the people of the towns the good news that the king is now back on the throne and that your slavery is over. Mm. Whose child is, that's the third book, or third story. Basically, it's a man who owns a manor. He is away, or he hears a knocking on the door, and he goes to it. And this very distinguished gentleman wants to come in and live in the house. And the owner of the manor goes, I don't know who you are. And he goes, well, I'm a very good man. I give to the poor. I do all these nice things. I even speak highly of you throughout the world. And he wants to come in and live. And later on, while they're discussing that, this ragged young lady comes in there, and she wants to come in also. And the owner of the manor invites her in. And the other man is just totally appalled at this. Why won't you let me in, but you let this ragamuffin in? Mm-hmm. And, and later on the book will or the story will tell you what happened at that point. I got some others on there, different stories, but they basically run in the same vein. They talk about there's decisions that we make every day, how they would impact our life, our Christian walk, basically.
Well, Michael, this is what I love about your book, man, because you're talking, like you just said, you're talking about Christian themes. You're talking about messages that we receive in the Bible, but you're doing it in a much more modern way. And listen, I'm not here to attack the Bible or say there's anything wrong with it, but having a more modern approach and looking at it through a different lens, I think is ultimately going to assist certain groups of people to latch onto it a little bit easier. Listen, it's kind of like that old thing. I don't understand why it happens, but I realize it now as a parent. And I'm sure my parents, understand this as well. It's like, you could tell your children the same message 20 times. And then another person will say that exact same message. And for whatever reason, man, they latch onto that message from somebody else, even though you've been telling it to them for years. It just happens that way. So this is something I think that offers a lot of wisdom. It offers a lot of benefit. And people, this is why you got to head on over and pick up your copies. Again, it's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, it's Google Books. The book is called Two Roads, Modern Christian Parables. And please believe me, it is just that. While you're at it, check out his other novel, Life Sentence. Both of these books are fantastic and ones you want to add to your shelf. Michael, my follow-up question that I want to go into, I've never categorized myself as a religious person per se. I've always been spiritual. I've dabbled in the Bible. I'm familiar with it, but I'm not necessarily a religious person. I'm absolutely a believer, but doesn't take much to understand and be able to pick up on some of these messages. And right off the bat, this first short story, right, the first narrative following the two young girls when they approach the two roads, I mean, that is something that is clearly, I recognized it right off the bat. And once I did a little research on it, I found it, right? Matthew 7:13-14. We're talking about the wide and the narrow paths and the differences between the two, right? One leading to destruction, one leading to where you want, right? What you're desiring, where you would like to go. And that whole parable. And I love how you articulated that message, again, in this modern way through the lens of these two young girls. Well, I want to ask, really as an overarching theme to the entire book, because all of your short stories have that connection to the Bible. Well, how did you, when you were writing this book, go about weaving these biblical elements into the narrative without making it feel overly religious?
That was, I would have to credit the writing style of C.S. Lewis on that. He was able to do that with his Chronicle, or the Narnia Chronicles, the space trilogy that he did. They had biblical themes throughout, but it wasn't one of those things that they just hit you over the head with it either. And so I kind of tried to emulate the way he does it. But C.S. Lewis is much in a higher class than I'll ever get. But I tried to keep it. I did. There is one sunrise in there, and in my place, those two. I'm going to hit you with the biblical theme right off the bat. You're going to should be able to hit that without any difficulty. But the rest of them, I kind of hide it a little bit.
Yeah.
And at the end of each of the stories, I do give you a Bible verse that relates to it. So if you didn't catch it during the story itself, it should make it very abundantly clear when you read the Bible verse at the end of them all.
We know that the book is divided into a collection of short stories, a culmination of 10 stories, 10 short stories, in addition to the two girls traveling. Well, I'm curious to know, when you were writing this, outside of the parables and the Christian messages there, is there anything else that connects these stories together, or are they all just unique and standalone tales?
Well, they can be both. They do have like the Bible itself. It has, you compare my book to the Bible, no. But anyway, the way the Bible is written, there is what some theologians will say a crimson ribbon going throughout the entire, every book of the Bible. You can see where Christ is in there. And the same thing with this. There's a ribbon that connects them all together. Most of them have to do with our life choices, how we conduct, even when we're in the bed, like in the lump of clay. The one pot finds himself that he is a pot that is created to be of a lower class. He's a chamber pot for the king. If you know what anybody out there that doesn't know what a chamber pot is, that's what the king used to relieve himself in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And so the pot thinks, oh my, this is the worst destiny a pot could possibly have. And even when you're in those type of places where you think you're the lowest class of anything, make yourself the best that you can be of that particular class and see what happens at that point. So every one of them has some kind of a meaning to it. It has something to do with our choices of life and how we can handle those choices a little bit better than maybe what we would have done otherwise.
Yeah.
On two roads, the main thing on that was, like you mentioned in Matthew, where Jesus is pointing out the two roads that you need to go down. I was dating a girl, and everything seemed to be great going on to it, but all of a sudden I found out when I lost my job. I was making good money before, and I lost my job, and suddenly she turned, no, I don't want you anymore, I want somebody else. And I found out she was very materialistic.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my wife, when I met her, she was from a very small village in Indonesia. So for her, what we consider poverty around here are riches over there.
Yeah.
So she grew up in a very, very poor way of life, but she understands that money's not the most important thing in life.
Mm-hmm.
She can be rich, she can be poor, and she's going to maintain that same caliber of spirit. So when I was creating the book, I was kind of comparing these two girls in my life together, see how one of them is materialistic and one of them looking out. Her main desire, the Jennifer girl in the story, her main desire is to help the poor, take care of the sick and the downtrodden, whereas Jazz, her desires is to get diamonds, jewels, fine dresses, go to big parties and balls with the king and that. So
yeah,
kind of like those are the two people I see in the world. Now, I know that there's a lot of people in between there, but those are two I wanted to really point out, those two kind of, different storylines.
As we start to close out here, man, final couple of questions. Throughout this writing process, what would you say was the more challenging aspect for you in creating this narrative?
I guess trying to put myself in the place of the person that I'm probably not. Because I've been a Christian now since 1975, and it's kind of like hard at times to put myself into, a secular role. How do I relate in that position? But I guess I found it wasn't as hard as I thought at first it was going to be. I can make myself very bad if I want to. So easy to be evil, if you will. Mm-hmm. So, trying to put myself into that place and just trying to get it all together. And I'd say the worst, or the hardest part of the whole thing is the editing and rereading it and still trying to maintain when you're rereading it for the 20th time, is it still carrying the same punch? So, especially, if I read it 20 times in 20 years, it might still, but reading it 20 times in 2 weeks, you go, oh.
Yeah, no, I get it. That process can be grueling sometimes. Michael, my final question here for you, and I think it's safe to assume, but you know what happens when you do that. So let's just go directly to the source. What are you, not even just what are you hoping readers take from the book, but what are some discussions that you hope readers have after completing your book?
Well, I'm hoping that they can relate to, throughout their lives, even, they have to kind of forget their past life, what happened back then, but in their future, when they can maybe clearly see there's two ways you can go on different things and try to pick the right way instead of going off on what looks easy.
Absolutely.
Almost all the way through our lives, we always think that the hard way is the bad way. You don't want to go that way, but you find out a lot of times going the hard direction is really the right way to go. Mm-hmm. I remember somebody one time saying that Christianity, we're always looking for the mountaintop experiences. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, it just came to me, and I ordered it out, but nothing grows on the mountaintops. It all grows down in the valley, where we consider to be the lowlands and all that. That's where things grow. It doesn't grow up on the mountaintops.
Yeah.
If we're always up and all that, and life is just treating us, I'm doing great and all that, you don't learn anything from that.
Exactly. So. People, I'm telling you, you all know what you got to do. This book has so much more to offer. Last time, it's called Two Roads, Modern Christian Parables. Check out his other novel, Life Sentence. Michael L. Larimer is a name that you need to remember. It starts with Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Books. Head on over there. Pick up your copies today. Figure out why I say that. This is going to be a remarkable book to help you view life through a different lens, to help you understand and maybe even appreciate things a little bit more. You know where to go. Head on over there today. Michael, this has been a true pleasure, an absolute delight. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Well, the pleasure was all mine, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.